Welcome to the Anisumo channel. Today you're watching a romance anime with a touch of horror. And yes, there are vampires involved. The story begins with a boy sneaking out of his house. He carefully closes the door behind him and lets out a relieved sigh. Outside, he celebrates having managed to slip away at night without his family noticing. He starts thinking that he should be asleep so he can go to school in the morning. That's when we learn that Yamori, our protagonist, is struggling with insomnia. We are taken into a flashback that shows how it all started. Yamori was asked out by a girl, but he turned her down because, as he puts it, he doesn't get how this romance stuff works. After rejecting her, he began to get bullied by his classmates. Back in the present, Yamori is walking home when he gets the idea to commit a small crime. Even though he's underage and unsupervised, he tries to buy a beer. Might not sound like much to us, but in Japan, kids drinking alcohol is taken very seriously. And that's when she shows up. Those few seconds of tension feel like an eternity until the mysterious girl reveals she's actually there to help him. Somehow, she already knows that Yamori suffers from insomnia and explains that lots of people wander through the night searching for something. And they all share one thing in common. They're not satisfied with their lives during the day. The girl casually chats with strangers and tells Yamori that the night is a completely different world. It's a time when people can be free and let go of their inhibitions. Yamori tries to follow her lead but ends up getting flustered and awkward. Eventually, she invites him to her place to help him fall asleep. He gets a bit suspicious of her intentions, and when he finds out she only has one mattress, he tries to run away. It's actually a futon, a kind of giant, soft blanket that works like a floor mattress. She stops him and, after some convincing, talks him into staying. She tells him to just close his eyes and relax, but Yamori is way too nervous, so he comes up with the brilliant idea to pretend to fall asleep, just to make her feel like she helped, and then he could sneak away later. Big mistake. Because as soon as she thinks he's asleep, she reveals her real intentions. And they're worse than he could have ever imagined. The girl gets startled for a moment. It almost seems like she realized Yamori was awake. But no. She's actually shocked by how delicious his blood is. In the end, Yamori admits he was awake the whole time, and she tries to cover it up by saying there was a huge mosquito on his neck that she had to kill. Yeah, even she doesn't buy that excuse. Yamori starts to panic, wondering if he's now a vampire. But she explains that's just movie stuff. For her, drinking blood is like eating a meal. And it'd be a nightmare if every person bitten turned into a vampire. That only happens when the human being bitten is in love with the vampire. As they talk about vampires and the differences between night and day, Yamori reflects on how much he hates going to school and how the night just feels more fun. Slowly, a dangerous idea begins to form in his mind until he asks the girl to turn him into a vampire. She gets all flustered because apparently that's basically the vampire equivalent of a marriage proposal. But Yamori is serious. He promises he'll fall in love with her. She eventually agrees, but says she won't do anything, she'll just keep feeding on him, and it's up to him to fall in love with her. That's when she formally introduces herself, and we finally learn her name, Nanukuse Nazuna. Time goes on, and Yamori keeps sneaking out at night to enjoy the city, and he's been meeting up with Nazuna more and more. One night, they're talking about vampire habits, and Nazuna explains that drinking blood isn't just about feeding. Since vampires can turn others into their kind that way, it's basically their version of copulation. Yes, she uses that exact word, and Yamori gets super embarrassed by her bluntness. It's funny because Nazuna can talk about a copulation without blinking, but gets flustered and even angry when Yamori brings up feelings like love and romance. Later, he offers his neck to her, and she yells at him for showing that in public, like it's something indecent. Another night, Yamori is wandering around as usual, but something feels off. He can't find Nazuna anywhere. He realizes they never actually agreed on a meeting spot or time. Tired of searching downtown, he decides to head back toward home, hoping to find her nearby. While walking, he realizes that even if she drinks his blood tonight, it won't matter, since he doesn't love her yet, he won't become a vampire. Right as he finishes that thought, Nazuna appears and casually greets him. Yomori's annoyed, saying he looked everywhere for her. She apologizes, saying she was out looking for a random sucker to feed on. Yamori, maybe not that mad before, now starts cursing her out, calling her shameless and promiscuous. She claps back, saying he eats both rice and bread. He reminds her she herself said drinking blood is like sex. Eventually, they stop fighting, and Yamori says he doesn't want to keep looking for her every night, so he asks for her number. Nazune takes the opportunity to ask something she's always wanted to: do you have Facebook? He says no. She replies, good, me neither. Problem is, she doesn't even have a phone. Yamori is shocked, but she remembers she has an old one at home. He can't believe that black brick is a phone, but if it works, he tells her to carry it with her so he can call her. She refuses, saying that phone is way too bulky. She bought it cause it looked cool, but newer models came out fast, so she gave up trying to keep up. Nazuna lies down, saying she's tired from walking around hunting for someone to feed on. Yamori gets a little bothered, but she invites him to lie down too. He feels anxious, unsure why. He starts thinking about what she said earlier about looking for other people to drink from. She mistakes his frustration for shyness and asks if she can bite him now. But he says no. He tells her if she's that desperate, she can go find someone else. In his thoughts, he has no idea why he just said that. Nazuna is caught off guard but apologizes. She admits she was also looking for him but was too embarrassed to say it. And besides, it'd be hard to find someone whose blood tastes as good as his. That breaks down Yomori's emotional walls, and he offers her his neck. Relieved by her confession, he finally manages to fall asleep while she's already snoring. Cut to the next scene, Yamori is once again running through the streets, searching for his favorite vampire girl. Looks like they forgot to arrange a meeting spot again. Nazuna shows up, and before another argument starts, Yamori presents the perfect solution: a walkie-talkie watch, or as he calls it, a trance watch. Nazuna gets hyped, thinking it's the coolest thing ever. But Yamori insists it's not a toy, it's a serious communication device. Though, yeah, he did buy it as a kid just to play with. She's surprised, thinking he didn't have any friends. Totally offended, Yamori says he's not some loser who can't have fun just cause he had no friends. He shares that after buying the set, he thought of hiding one for someone to find so they could talk. The plan worked, but when it came time to call, he chickened out. It's been so long that he doesn't even remember why. He just waited for the other person to call first. After hearing what might be the saddest story of all time, Nazuna cracks up, but agrees to use the trance watch. They split up to test it out. Yamori realizes he's never pushed the button before, and barely uses his phone either. He gets kind of nervous. When he finally presses it, the sound is super loud, and he doesn't say anything. Nazuna is the first to speak. Enemy spotted. Should I open fire? Over. Not yet. Wait for my signal. They burst out laughing and agree it is pretty fun to play with trance watches. Yamori says they sound like a new couple who just started dating. Nazuna is already embarrassed when he adds, I hope I fall in love with you soon. She stands up, thinking his blood tonight is gonna taste extra delicious. They fly over the city together, landing at his school, a place he hasn't been to in days. He says he's never seen it at night. She replies that nighttime changes everything. Even the school he hates during the day doesn't seem so bad at midnight. Suddenly, she leans in and bites him, catching him totally off guard. But he gets her back, calling her by her first name, which is a pretty intimate thing in Japan. Usually, people use pronouns or last names. She's shocked, but he says he needs something to call her when using the trance watch. Casually, he keeps calling her by her first name and adds, before we fall in love, let's start by being friends. Scene cuts to Yamori walking home, wondering whatever happened to the other trans watch he lost when he was a kid. Right then, his watch beeps. And to make things even weirder, a girl appears behind him, calls him by his last name, and asks what he's doing. That girl who suddenly showed up in the last video has our protagonist's communicator watch, so he asks her why she's wearing it. She seems confused by the question but says she didn't throw it away because he was the one who gave it to her. Now he's the one who doesn't understand anything. What does she mean he gave it to her? She continues, explaining that after they were put in different classes in 6th grade and stopped talking, she missed him and waited for his call, which never came. She figured he had forgotten about her and moved on. But since he's been skipping school a lot lately, she decided to press the button to check on him. She was shocked when she heard the other watch so close by. Yamori can't hold back and asks if he really gave her the watch. She says no, but that he left it on top of her mailbox. She has no idea that Yamori didn't even know she lived there. While he's trying to figure out how to explain this, she says she's glad to know he's doing okay. After all, she was worried, as a friend. By now, Yamori is sweating nervously, but she keeps going, thanking him for the watch. Since he was always a quiet guy, she wasn't sure if he considered her a friend, but when she saw the watch, she had no doubts. Our guy can only think about how deep he's gotten into this misunderstanding and tries to explain, but all that comes out is, it's been a while, huh? After coming down, he finally realizes she's wearing a school uniform, but it's 4 a.m. So he asks what she's doing at school so late. She replies that it's not late, it's early. She always wakes up early because she likes taking walks before class. She asks if they can meet again tomorrow at the same time, but we don't see what Yamori says. Apparently, he returns to Nazuna's place just to tell her that he found out he actually does have a friend, even if it's just one. Nazuna, shocked that he woke her up just to say that, tells him to get lost. Next, we see Yamori getting dressed while Nazuna teases that he's been heading out earlier than usual. He tries to brush it off by saying it's already 3:30, but she presses on, accusing him of being the kind of guy who does the deed and dips. Naturally, the guy gets embarrassed, and Nazuna, sensing something, says she knows he's been sneaking off to see someone else. Yamori is flustered, and now it's Nazuna's turn to look dumbfounded. She was just joking, not expecting there to actually be someone else. She's speechless as he stumbles over his excuses and leaves in a hurry. He meets up with his friend at a playground.
Akira! Yo.
They just sit there, not talking much. Yamori starts to remember how cheerful and talkative Akira used to be. He asks if she actually enjoys hanging out with him. She says she really does, and a thought creeps into his head. He thinks he might be wrong, wants to be wrong, but feels like maybe she likes him. Like, romantically. He's lost in thought when he notices someone suspicious approaching, and it's none other than our favorite vampire. She gets closer, saying now everything makes sense. Akira is startled. It looks like Nazuna's about to wreck Yamori, but she's actually just here to mess with him, calling him a sleazebag for sneaking off with another girl. Akira asks if she's someone he knows, but Nazuna interrupts, saying there's no need to worry, their relationship is purely physical. It's not exactly a lie, but said like that, it sounds wrong. Now Akira's concerned he might be in something shady. In the mess of explanations, she realizes they call each other by their first names. She says, "Oh, I see now," in a tone of quiet defeat. "You like her? That's nice." And now Nazuna's the one embarrassed, saying Akira's got it all wrong. Nazuna tells Akira not to look away, because she's about to show what they really do. Akira runs through every emotion imaginable as Ko yells at Nazuna not to do this in front of his friend, but it's already too late. Cut to the three of them at a diner. Akira is very concerned, asking all sorts of questions. She didn't buy the vampire story and wants to know if all this has anything to do with him quitting school. Yamori explains that he used to enjoy school, but one day it just started to feel boring, so he stopped going. Akira says she finds school boring too, but she still goes. He should be more responsible. She finishes by saying school would be more fun with both of them there. Nazuna doesn't seem to like that. The mood shifts. She asks where Akira was all this time. If she likes him, why didn't she call before? But before Akira can respond, Nazuna just leaves, sticking them with the bill. Yamori follows her after dropping some money on the table. He asks if she's mad. She says no, but she's clearly not talking to him properly. So he keeps pushing until she finally snaps, swears at him, and storms off. He doesn't understand why she's suddenly so angry but runs after her, only to find she's disappeared. He wanders the city, searching until sunrise. He trips on some stairs, wipes his mouth, and remembers his phone. He calls Nazuna, and to his surprise, she answers. He immediately apologizes. She asks why. He's not sure but guesses it's because he was secretly hanging out with a girl. Nazuna says it's not about that, she's happy he made a friend. Yamori apologizes again, explaining that he's not good at social stuff and doesn't know what to do when people fight. He begs her to tell him what's wrong, he wants to make up. Then Nazuna appears in front of him. She asks why he didn't answer Akira right away when she invited him back to school. She's a bit embarrassed but admits that's what upset her. He reassures her, saying he just didn't know how to tell a human friend that he's planning to become a vampire. That works. Nazuna calms down, then notices he's bleeding. She pulls him close and drinks from his mouth. She comments that he called Akira a human friend, so that must mean she's his vampire friend. Smiling, she walks off, saying, "See you tomorrow, friend." But Yamori thinks to himself, friends don't kiss each other out of nowhere. Episode 05. In the next scene, Akira is in class when the teacher wakes up a student who's been dozing off. The teacher scolds him, saying people are supposed to sleep at night. That once you're an adult, you'll be forced to stay awake whether you like it or not, so better enjoy having a healthy sleep cycle while you're young. Akira goes home with a blank expression. She says, "I'm home," but no one replies. She goes through her usual routine, showering, brushing her teeth, and by 8:30 p.m., she's already in pajamas and going to bed. At the same moment she closes her eyes, Yamori opens the door to his place, thinking he's gotten way better at sneaking out than before. He's still thinking about the kiss from the other night when he notices Nazuna already waiting for him at their usual hangout spot. But tonight, he's not really in the mood to see her just yet. He hasn't figured out how to act around her since that kiss. He starts overthinking and eventually concludes, when lips touch, that's definitely a kiss. And people only kiss when they're in love. His heart races, and he decides he must be in love with the vampire. He's all giddy when Nazuna arrives, clearly annoyed she couldn't find him earlier. Feeling proud, he confidently tells her he's fallen for her and is ready to become a vampire. But when she bites him, nothing happens. Yamori suspects Nazuna tricked him, but she explains it's simply because he's not in love. She says it's probably just lost his feeling after the kiss. Yamori starts putting things together and feels super embarrassed for mistaking excitement for love. He admits it was his first kiss. Nazuna confesses it was hers too, but says he's misunderstanding things. Kissing is something friends do too. Cut to Akira, who suddenly wakes up. She's frustrated to find it's still nighttime and realizes she's been having trouble sleeping lately. She goes out for a walk, and we see the opening scene of the episode replay. She and Yamori talk about how weird it is to be out this late. One thing leads to another, and Ko invites her to Nazuna's place. The three hang out playing video games. Nazuna, of course, keeps teasing the two teens and even casually claims that she and Yamori kiss all the time. Akira clearly feels uncomfortable but tells Ko she wants to support him, just not with this obscene monster. Nazuna keeps poking fun, acting innocent, and says Ko doesn't even like her that way. Later, she suggests they all get some sleep since it's late. The three end up squeezing into a tiny sleeping space. Akira's clearly not at ease. She says she's heading to school early. There are only 2 hours until it opens anyway. But Nazuna points out it's raining and she doesn't have an umbrella, so maybe she should wait a bit. While Akira watches the rain, Nazuna sneaks in a quick blood-sucking session with Ko. Akira then asks again about this whole vampire thing. Ko tells her he's decided he wants to become a vampire someday. She doesn't take it too seriously but keeps asking questions, and he explains he has to fall in love with Nazuna to make it happen. Nazuna, flustered by all the talk about romance, tells everyone to just go to sleep. Akira still looks uncomfortable and says she'll leave as soon as the rain stops. Nazuna pretends to sleep, and Akira and Ko start whispering. Ko apologizes for dragging her into all this but says since she was worried, he wanted to show her what his nights were like, that it's nothing bad. He also asks if her knowing he wants to become a vampire bothers her. She says no, it's not something that would ruin their friendship. Noticing his arms crossed tensely, she tells him to relax or he won't be able to sleep, and that it's okay if their hands touch. She turns her back to him and says even if he becomes a vampire, she'll still call on him to go to school. Then she says goodnight. As she lies there, she realizes it's been ages since she said goodnight to someone. She feels happy. While wondering how long the rain will last, she finally drifts off. She wakes up in a panic. She's overslept. Nazuna appears and asks if she slept well. She says that people need to feel satisfied with their waking hours to be able to sleep peacefully, and asks if Akira feels satisfied. Akira doesn't respond out loud, but as she walks down the street, a soft smile appears on her face as she thinks to herself, I think I do. Now it's Nazuna's turn to wake up. But when she checks the clock, it's only 4:35 p.m. For her, that feels like she barely slept at all. She gets up to play some video games. At first, it's fun. She even gets excited talking to herself, but she loses and starts rage quitting, blaming the game item. She remembers a package she was expecting and heads to check the mailbox. Even though she selected a specific delivery time, they came in the morning while she was asleep and left nothing. It feels like nothing's going right. It's still only 8 p.m. She considers doing laundry or cleaning, but ends up just turning on the TV. Unfortunately, it's one of those annoying infomercials. Fed up with being home, she heads out, hoping a miracle will happen. And a kitten appears. She walks up and starts petting it. They play together for a while, but when it's time to leave, she realizes her hands stink, like really stink. She decides to hit a public bath. She tells the attendant to let her know when the alarm goes off. Not long after she gets in the water, the alarm rings and she rushes out before the guy even gets the chance to say anything. Outside, Ko barely recognizes her. She's wearing her hair down. He's caught off guard by her new look and starts to feel even more attracted to her than usual. He reflects on how lately he's been experiencing all these intense emotions. Nighttime is fun, but being that emotionally charged all the time is kind of exhausting. Out of nowhere, he asks Nazuna to suck his blood. He explains, or to himself, that he's discovered two benefits to having his blood sucked. First, it calms him down and helps him sort out his thoughts. Second, it helps him confirm whether or not he's really in love with Nazuna. Lately, with all the time they've spent together, he's starting to get tricked by his own brain. They're on top of a bridge chatting when Nazuna mentions she already fed on some random guy who walks by below. Yamori gets a little jealous, but she reassures him. Now, she only drinks his blood. He asks how she used to get people to bite before she met him. She explains that she used to work as a professional cuddler, a common service in Japan where people pay to talk, hug, or just sleep beside someone. Just sleep. Nothing else. Yamori accuses her of offering something more, but she shows him a printed menu of her services and offers to let him try it out. It's all pretty tame stuff, so he chooses a massage. He's a bit shy at first but slowly starts to relax. They talk about how the massage helps with blood circulation and how it puts clients to sleep, which is when she would have her meal. Nazuna's about to go in for a bite when, ding dong, someone rings the doorbell. Nazuna goes to check and sees that it's one of her clients. But since she's tired from just finishing a massage on Yamori, she asks him to take care of it. What he didn't expect was that she meant he should give the massage. When he protests, she says she'll split the payment with him and even throw in another kiss as a reward. The scene cuts to an excited Yamori ready to start the job, and a poor woman looking horrified that she's being greeted by a kid instead of Nazuna, who she's used to. When she asks his age and he replies he's 14, she can hardly believe it, especially after he admits it's his first day on the job. She starts thinking he must be going through something rough if he's working this shady job in the middle of the night. They talk for a while, and Yamori explains he stopped going to school because one night he went out and fell in love with the feeling. The woman starts remembering her younger days and how she's sick of killing herself with work every single day, until she breaks down and starts crying. That's when her boss calls. She says she has to leave even though she's in the middle of her massage, and gets ready to go. But then Yamori feels something strange in his chest and decides he won't let her leave. He's so determined to help her that he even becomes a bit intimidating, standing in front of the door and telling her she's sleeping there tonight, finishing the massage, and enjoying the night.
あんたにはここで眠ってもらう。マッサージはまだ終わっていない。
Before the woman can even process what's happening, Nazuna comes through the wall to see what's going on. When Ko asks for help and tells her the woman can't go back to work, Nazuna handles it by straight up tossing her out the window. A million thoughts run through the woman's mind, but one sticks out: am I going to die? Just then, Yamori and Nazuna swoop in to save her. Down on the ground, Yamori apologizes, saying that if you hate something so much it makes you cry, you shouldn't have to keep doing it. But the woman says he doesn't get it, he's just a kid. This isn't like school. It's work. Adults have to work even if they don't want to. One thing leads to another, and Yamori ends up telling her about his dream to become a vampire and be free. She smiles for the first time, and when she says she wishes she could become one too, Yamori promises to turn her into one after he becomes one himself. She thanks him, saying she feels lighter now, but still ends up going to work anyway. In the next scene, Yamori is buying a soda when it starts to rain, so he ducks under a bridge for cover. There are other people there too, including a guy who seems to be hitting on a girl. She walks over to Yamori and starts chatting, saying that the guy tried to offer her money to go out with him. Yamori comments that it must be tough for girls, but she says not at all, she was actually waiting for someone to hit on her on purpose. They keep talking, and she says she finds him interesting. She invites him to hang out, but Yamori doesn't seem that into it. So she steals his soda and walks off, but he's not letting that slide. He chases after her, asking for his drink back. Out of nowhere, she starts complaining that life's been super boring lately and she has no one to talk to about it. Yamori's instincts kick in and he says he's just like her, and that it's going to be okay. That's when she jumps on him and thanks him, saying this Yamori guy is really sweet, and then she bares her fangs. Nazuna rushes in like a wild ninja and attacks the girl, yelling, "Hands off my prey." The other vampire says that humans are either food or breeding material, and if Ko isn't going to be either, he needs to be eliminated. While they are fighting, a third figure shows up and kidnaps Ko. He gets taken to a rooftop where 4 more vampires are waiting. They say it's very simple, he needs to choose one of them, or the blonde girl from earlier, to turn him into a vampire. Otherwise, he's going to be eliminated. But he says he wants to be turned by Nazuna, which shocks all of them. They explain that vampires need to seduce their prey to reproduce, so they evolve to be beautiful and popular. But Nazuna's different, she doesn't try to be popular and is embarrassed to talk about romance. So the girls start competing with each other to see who's the most seductive, but one by one, they all fail. One's super cutesy and says she likes virgins. The redhead tries to win him over by being friendly. But nothing works. They tell him he has to choose someone or he won't live to see the sunrise, but he keeps insisting he wants to become a vampire and fall in love with Nazuna. And right as he says that, she shows up. They all get tense, thinking she's furious, but she's just dying of embarrassment. The vampires still doubt whether she even can reproduce, since she's never shown interest. One of them even tries seducing Yamori right in front of her, and things nearly get violent if not for the redhead stepping in to stop a vampire-on-vampire fight. Nazuna stays on the defensive, saying she'll attack anyone who touches him, but Yamori steps in, saying she already gave him permission to fall for her whenever he wants. At first, the others don't really get it, but they eventually accept that it's their way of making a deal, even if it's totally non-romantic. So they accept Yamori's existence and say they won't do anything, for now. Everyone's happy, and Yamori says everything's going to be fine, that no matter how long it takes, he'll keep trying to become a vampire. And just then, everyone reacts in shock, including Nazuna, who just goes, "Oh no." The redhead explains that this isn't possible because he only has 1 year to be turned into a vampire. After that, it's no longer possible. Ko is shocked that Nazuna forgot such a crucial detail, or rather, never even told him about the other vampires or their rules. Despite everything, no one had to die. They are getting ready to leave when Nazuna remembers something else she had forgotten, that massage day, when she made him a promise.
Kiyosumi-sanの? なんだっけ?
Kissing in public is considered an obscene act in Japan, so the other vampires are all shocked. But Nazuna treats it like it's completely normal. After paying him, they leave. In the next scene, Ko is telling his friend, Ose Akira, everything that happened. During their conversation, he realizes that if he doesn't turn into a vampire within a year, he'll definitely be exterminated. This really worries him. After leaving him deep in thought, Akira is walking to school, also concerned about her friend's fate. But once she arrives, She finds someone collapsed on the ground. It's Seki Mohiro. He apologizes for scaring her and says he stayed up all night having fun. She wonders if this is some new trend, and he explains it's because of someone he likes, someone who's only free at night. Akira realizes it's someone older and jokes that she hopes it's not a vampire. Mohiro asks what she means, but she brushes it off as nonsense. He changes the subject, saying it's been a while since Ko came to school, and it would be nice if the three of them could hang out like they used to when they were kids. Cut to the blonde vampire. She bumps into Ko on the street. He tries to pretend she's mistaken and runs away, but it's no use. She tells him not to worry, that she's not planning to kill him today. They talk about his current situation, and he admits he's in trouble. He doesn't know how to fall in love, or what love even is. The woman finds his youthful innocence charming and decides to help him. The story jumps to Ko inviting Nazuna out on a date, but she immediately refuses and goes back to her video game. She says she's just discovered gaming, maybe she was playing Minecraft. Ko turns off the console, and she gets really mad, but ends up agreeing to go. They go to the movies, but she's furious that he chose a romantic comedy. So they go to a cafe instead. He tries to talk about the movie, following all the step-by-step advice he got from Seri, the blonde vampire. Nazuna notices he's acting weird and grabs his notes. After reading the whole cheesy plan, she storms off, leaving Ko disappointed. Nazuna is back at home gaming when her stomach growls loudly. She looks at the list and seems to get an idea. In the next scene, she's at his window, saying she'll give one of the things on the list a try, a stargazing dinner. She asks Ko what a date is. When he doesn't answer, she says that if what they're doing is a date, then they've been dating every night, and proceeds to suck his blood. The anime cuts to a commercial break, and when it returns, we see a familiar scene. Ko is wandering the city looking for Nazuna. Across the street, he spots Mohiro. Ko freezes up, dreading a social interaction, but then smiles after seeing him, realizing he was happy about it. He tells himself he has more important things to do. Yamori reflects that he never really saw Mohiro as a close friend, maybe not even a friend at all, because Mohiro was always surrounded by people, always popular. He's thinking about how amazing and kind Mohiro is when Akira suddenly appears. Same old exchange. Mohiro says it's late for her to be out, and she replies it's early, she just left the house. They talk a bit, and Yamori tells Mohiro that he's been hanging out with a girl at night, which is why he stopped going to school. Mohiro thanks him, saying Ko's example gave him courage. Cut to Nazuna looking for Ko, when she spots Mohiro talking with a woman. We can't hear what they are saying, and Nazuna doesn't say anything either. But an eerie suspenseful soundtrack plays. Ko shows up happy to see her, but immediately asks what's wrong when he sees her expression. She just says, with a high schooler, it seems, illicit, and holds out her hand. I take my eyes off you and you're already lost. The scene opens with Seri, irritated by someone she's been ignoring. She says it's such a nuisance, she even considered turning him into a vampire, but now she's lost interest. She sees Yamori and happily runs up to hug him, only to be stopped by a wild flying knee. Even Yamori gets mad at Nazuna, but she says it's fine since vampires are tough. The two argue, but eventually Nazuna asks why Seri's getting close to Ko if she said humans are only for feeding or reproducing. Hearing this, Seri stands up and says that's exactly why. She just wanted to annoy Nazuna a bit. She leaves, but Yamori follows, classic protagonist move. She keeps pretending, but Yamori insists. He says he figures vampires must have problems too. After a moment, she invites him to karaoke. Once there, she explains that she's super popular, and lately, that's become a problem. It's exhausting dealing with guys. Ko says he understands. He also gets annoyed when people act like romance is the only thing that matters in life. For a second, she seems to envy Nazuna, realizing why she gets along with him so well. Then they sing and have fun. Seri asks if Nazuna was okay with him being alone with her. He says she got a little mad but told him to do whatever he wanted. As they're picking the next song, a strange figure appears at the door, like a zombie, calling out for Seri and banging on the glass. Seri apologizes, saying it's because of her popularity. Ko starts panicking, but she stays calm, saying this happens a lot. Quick note here, in case you haven't noticed, this anime uses exaggerated colors for dramatic effect. For example, it might look like the room suddenly went dark, but it's just a visual technique to highlight fear and tension. I don't add any filters, got it? Great, back to the story. Ko asks what would make things better for her, so she wouldn't have to deal with that nuisance anymore. Seri gets annoyed at the direction of the conversation, saying he shouldn't try to give her advice. Why can't he just have fun with her, like he does with Nazuna? She says the solution's easy, just get rid of the guy. Naturally, Ko says she can't do that. But Seri insists, saying it's normal for vampires to dispose of humans. Ko loses it and says vampires are way too arrogant. Now she's mad, saying humans are arrogant. They don't care when someone dies, but cry foul the moment a murder happens. He says that's not it, that sometimes, sure, maybe it's necessary to take someone out, but not this guy. He may be a pain, but they could just talk. And right then, the guy enters, asking if they're arguing over him. Ko sees the look in his eyes and realizes talking won't work. Seri charges to attack, but Ko jumps in to save him. She tells Yamori to move aside, she won't mind eliminating him too. But Ko tells the nuisance that they need to run. At the end of the last episode, the protagonist, Ko Yamori, gets caught in the fight between the vampire Seri Kikyo and the man she calls a nuisance, trying to save him. They run away, leaving Seri behind, and it seems like they manage to escape. They stop in a dark alley to catch their breath, and the man starts talking about his relationship with Seri. He recalls how she probably felt sorry for him when he tripped. He says he doesn't care what she thinks of him, as long as he can stay close to her. Ko is about to scold him when Seri reappears, threatening to kill him. She says she's been lying all along and that she's a vampire who doesn't care about humans. Ko protects the man again, and just as Seri is about to attack, Nazuna shows up to save the day. She says Seri was naive to think she'd really leave the two alone. Nazuna then asks what's up with these four eyes, but the guy, and why Seri, who's never killed anyone before, decided to do so now. What a shocking twist. And it doesn't stop there. The nuisance tells Nazuna to let him go. He says it's all his fault and that he knew he couldn't fall in love with her because they're just friends. Seri, with no choice left, tells the truth. She says it's hard to have friends when your natural instinct as a vampire is always to seduce humans. She thought things could be different with him. Nazuna lets her go, and Seri tells the man they should stop seeing each other and pretend nothing ever happened. Ko, thinking the situation through, says she's the real nuisance for trying to kill her friend just to preserve a friendship. He suggests they just talk things out like friends. Seri admits she really is a vampire and says that even though Ko and Nazuna have this unique human-vampire relationship, that's a rare exception. Normally, vampires can't be friends with humans. She apologizes, says goodbye, and starts crying. Finally giving in to her true feelings, she breaks down, saying she doesn't want to lose that friendship. The man, on the other hand, says he doesn't want to lose her either and asks her to turn him into a vampire. Seri says that's not fair to him, but he insists. He'd rather be an undead than live a dead life inside without her. Ko can't help but feel a little envious, wondering when he'll finally be able to turn. In the end, everything works out, and they all go celebrate together at karaoke. On their way out, Ko and Nazuna run into Midori Kohokobi, who's wearing a weird outfit. She was actually looking for someone to help out at the maid cafe where she works and begs Nazuna to do it, saying she's the only one who can help without hurting the cafe's popularity. Nazuna, though a bit insulted, agrees, mostly because of the money. Ko decides to wait for Nazuna to finish her shift and sits in the cafe like a regular customer. Another maid comes to serve him and is impressed by how much the girls get into character. It feels just like an anime. After the shift ends, Midori is about to transfer Nazuna's payment when she gets an email. It contains compromising photos of the maids. Quick explanation: embarrassing or not, it's absolutely forbidden to take photos or film inside maid cafes to protect the staff's privacy. Even if you just want a photo of your food, there's a whole procedure, and your camera gets inspected to make sure you didn't capture anyone else. So these photos are a big problem, especially since the sender warns that the images are already circulating online. Ko stares at the photos intensely, and Midori calls him a pervert, accusing him of staring because she might be in them. But he fires back, saying that's not true, the photos are of the girl who served him earlier. Seeing Ko's keen eye for detail, Midori asks him to help find the culprit. The next day, before the cafe opens, he's still studying the photos when the victim, Arisa, arrives and jokingly says she's embarrassed by how intensely he's looking at her body. She apologizes and says she's sorry for not noticing she was being photographed. Ko figures out that since some pictures show her changing clothes, the only possible angle is through the window. He checks it out and sees it's too high to climb, unless the person is a vampire. Nazuna suspects Midori, but Ko quickly rules her out. He continues to examine the scene and even asks Nazuna to pose for a test shot. Something feels off. After thinking hard, he pieces everything together and finds the suspect. Later that night, Ko explains to Midori who the culprit is when someone arrives. They hide in a closet, while Nazuna tells Arisa that everyone has already left and she should close the cafe. Inside the closet, Ko explains the photos were taken after hours. Then they hear a noise at the window. Ko jumps out and catches the girl red-handed. Nazuna realizes she used the timer to take the photos from afar. After getting dressed again, Ko explains that the photos were too perfect, as if she were posing. Plus, none of them actually showed anything indecent. Midori joins in, figuring that Arisa used to be the most popular maid before Midori joined. Jealous, Arisa leaked her own photos in an attempt to regain popularity. Arisa is about to quit when Midori stops her, saying everyone has low points like that, even herself. She even compliments some of the photos. In the end, everything turns out fine, and Nazuna continues working there. Ko is waiting for her outside when Arisa shows up. Even on her day off, she came to visit. That's how much she loves maid cafes. This time, she takes a photo she can proudly share with others. After some time working at the cafe, Nazuna's apartment is looking much better. She says with the extra money, she can earn even more with her cuddle service, where she sleeps beside clients, just sleeps, and tells Ko to go find people who look tired. He wonders if he'll find anyone like that when he comes across a very gloomy-looking lady. After an awkward conversation, they move to a quieter place to talk. She's disappointed, thinking Ko was trying to hit on her. He explains the cuddle service, and she quotes a labor law that says minors in Japan can't work from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. She goes on to say that if she reports him, the shady cuddle house will be shut down. But in the end, she's just joking. Still, she wants him to be more careful next time. Ko sighs in relief and smiles. She also says she prefers sleeping alone. He mentions they also offer massages, and that gets her attention. She says she's always on her feet because of work. When Ko asks what she does, he gets excited to hear she's a detective. But she quickly kills his excitement, saying it's not like in anime or movies. She mostly investigates cheating spouses or missing people. Speaking of which, she asks if he knows someone named Okioma Okihito.
知らないって。
本当に。Ko lies and says he's never heard of him. She narrows her eyes and grabs his wrist to check his pulse, asking again if that's true. The scene doesn't make it clear whether she catches him in the lie, but she seems relieved. Nazuna is upset he didn't bring back a client until she sees he brought beer. Outside the apartment, the detective says she just hooked a much bigger fish than she expected. In the next scene, Ko is talking to his friends outside the school, asking why they called him out of nowhere. He explains he just wants to hang out with them. Despite their hesitation, he breaks into the school, inviting them in too. Mohiru says it was pure luck they reconnected after all these years and wants to make good memories with his friends because everything can change suddenly, like when Ko stopped going to school. They start exploring urban legends, like Japan's version of Bloody Mary. They have fun sneaking through the school, checking if the piano really plays itself at night, and investigating spooky stuff. Apparently, there's one legend at their school that might be true. Around 10 years ago, one of their teachers disappeared and was never found. Some say he still appears in a classroom late at night. The friends shrug it off, calling it fake. Still, they agree to check it out because Mohiru insists, and A mysterious figure appears, saying they shouldn't be there, and that it's their fault. He tried to resist, but they forced his hand by breaking in. In a flash, he's on top of Akira. Ko is frozen, feeling like this has happened before. Tension builds as Ko attacks the man, concluding he's a vampire. But something's off. Vampires are supposed to be elegant and attractive. Why does this one look so broken and miserable? The man, lying on the ground, tells them to run. Then a voice speaks from the darkness, saying she was looking for a big fish but didn't expect to win the lottery. It's the detective. She offers her neck to the vampire, joking about being a smoker. He lunges, but then recoils in agony. The detective is shocked when he says her blood is even worse than he imagined. She suspected it might come to this but didn't believe a vampire could go 10 years without a victim. Ko asks why he didn't feed before, but she says no one wants to become a vampire. The man cries, saying he was deceived, heartbroken over being tricked by someone he loved. The detective praises his strength for resisting all this time and says she'll reward him by letting him die as a human. The man looks horrified at the object she shows him. She tells him not to resist, just hold on. She understands his pain, but now he can finally rest. Ko is furious, asking why she killed him. She snaps back, saying he didn't want to live as a monster anymore, and that she won't let Ko achieve his foolish dream either. She tells him he knows nothing about vampires and hands her business cards to his friends. Worth noting, we don't actually know how the vampire died. Was it because of the object, maybe a ring, or something about her blood? After all, we've seen Nazuna walk in the sun unharmed. Maybe because she feeds regularly. What do you think? At the end of the last episode, the protagonist, Yamoriko, has his dream of becoming a vampire shaken by recent events, and is feeling pretty down. He's at home, sulking about what the detective told him. It seems his friend also went to see her at her office, but that's all we're shown for now. Could it be that the woman Ko's been seeing at night is also a vampire? Ko decides to go talk to Nazuna, who greets him at the door asking to suck his blood. He agrees, but when she hugs him and says she's starving, he remembers what happened and pushes her away. He tries to apologize, saying it was unintentional, but the mood has already shifted. Nazuna senses something's wrong and asks him to tell her what happened. After hearing a brief version of the story, Nazuna concludes that the vampire must have been starving to attack them like that. Ko asks if the same thing could happen to her, since she just said she was starving too, but she assures him, quite seriously, that he doesn't have to worry about that. They go for a walk and talk more about what happened. Nazuna explains that she heard vampires die if they go 10 years without drinking blood. When Ko tells her about the detective who's opposing his transformation into a vampire, Nazuna asks if he's changed his mind. He says no, but he's worried. The detective knows how to kill vampires. He doesn't want Nazuna to get hurt because of him, and he's also scared for his friends. He apologizes and asks Nazuna to drink his blood. Now that he understands his fear, he feels calm knowing what he's feeling. For some reason, Nazuna wants to visit Ko's house. He makes sure no one's home and invites her in. He explains that his mom works away from home and his dad doesn't live with them because they are divorced. Nazuna starts snooping around his room looking for something suspicious, but finds nothing except a tissue Ko swears he only used to blow his nose. After teasing him a bit, she confronts him, saying she knows he's having doubts about becoming a vampire. She can read a bit of his thoughts when she drinks his blood. She says it's normal to feel unsure after everything that's happened, that any normal person would have given up by now. Ko responds that the reason he wanted to become a vampire was the night. The night is just more fun, even though he's learned it's not just fun. It was fine at first, but putting others in danger is a different story. He jokes that Nazuna isn't in a big rush to reproduce with him anyway, but cuts himself off when he sees her expression. Nazuna says she'll help him with his indecision. She asks why he finds the night so fun. He says it's because of the freedom, but she corrects him, saying it's because the night isn't part of his routine. He was bored of school and his daytime activities, and the night offered the exact opposite. No school, empty streets. It felt exhilarating that first night. But is he still as hyped now as he was then? She tells him that anything outside the routine doesn't last, not even for long. Being a vampire is just pure boredom. She apologizes for lying. She says she became a vampire decades ago, and for an immortal like her, time drags. Every empty day of her own life, she was just waiting for some tiny miracle to break the boredom. She gets up, saying she's leaving, but Ko still wants to talk.
ちょっと待って、まだと。
He stares at her, and she asks what's wrong. As he prepares to apologize for tripping and leaning for a kiss, she whispers in his ear, "Did you think I was going to kiss you?" After teasing him, she jumps out the window, leaving him stunned. The next night, Ko calls the detective and waits to meet her. She misreads things again, thinking he wants to date her. Though embarrassed at first, she gets irritated when Ko questions her. She tells him he should enjoy spending the night with her. But moving on, they start talking about vampires. The detective gives a full display of her skills, overwhelming Ko with tons of personal information about him, his age, websites he visits, even pictures he downloads in secret. When Ko asks why she's against him becoming a vampire, she acts like the answer is obvious. Vampires are evil, they trick humans to drink their blood or starve themselves out of guilt and eventually snap, like what happened at school. She asks Ko, which one does he plan to become? Before he can respond, she keeps going. She says he hasn't even fallen in love yet, even with all the time spent with Nazuna. Oh yes, she knows about Nazuna. Even her address. She says Ko probably can't become a vampire because he's likely a romantic. Someone who doesn't fall in love, no matter the situation. This clearly bothers Ko. Sensing she's winning, the detective doubles down, saying it's not enough for him to just stay human. Now that he knows about vampires, they won't let him live, and the vampire who brought him into this might get killed too. Ko says he doesn't want that to happen. So she tells him to decide. He can stay human or become a vampire and be killed by her. She says she's willing to do anything to please him if he chooses to stay human. Ko points out that he'd still be killed by vampires either way, but she reassures him by saying she'll kill all the vampires. Ko backs off, saying vampires aren't as evil as she claims. They have feelings, they respect humans, and they have their own struggles. The detective says she doesn't want to take away his precious freedom, but it's safer to take the easy path. Then she makes a phone call. She says there's been a teenager wandering around alone at night lately. She asks if that's normal, acting like a concerned citizen. Quick explanation: in Japan, minors aren't allowed out without an adult after 10 p.m. It's not exactly a crime, but police take this kind of report seriously. Ko, hearing that call, panics and runs to hide. He's terrified of being labeled a criminal, or worse, losing his freedom to enjoy the night. He manages to shake off the police by hiding in a playground slide. He's thinking about going to Nazuna's place but is scared of causing her more trouble when suddenly, another vampire appears, Hotsuka-san. She invites him over to her place. When they arrive, a bunch of crazy people rush, saying they cleaned the house and did all sorts of chores. But she doesn't pay them any mind and tells them to leave because she's having a guest over. They seem a little upset but quickly comply. Ko is completely lost. Who were those people? Why does she only have one seat in the living room? He thinks this vampire is particularly strange, even compared to the others he's met so far. She breaks his train of thought, saying she forgot a towel.
悪いんだけど、持ってきてくれない?
Well, actually, she was a he, a male vampire. After bringing the towel, Ko is visibly shocked and even asks just to be sure, "So, you're a guy?" He confirms, adding that he was surprised Ko didn't know yet. He figured Nazuna had already told him. He uses the moment to vent, saying Nazuna never tells him anything. The scene shifts to Nazuna finishing up a conversation, saying that Ko isn't going to become a vampire anymore. She also asks the others to go easy on him and not kill him over it, and demands Nazuna explain what makes Ko so special, otherwise she'll go after him and end this once and for all. Back at Hotsuka-san's apartment, he's stunned by Ko's revelation that he doesn't want to become a vampire anymore. Ko tries to explain his reasoning, telling him about the vampire hunting detective. He suspects she let him drink her blood on purpose so she could kill him. The vampire even said his blood tasted awful. Hotsuka reflects on it and admits he's not sure about anything either. Vampires don't understand much about themselves, just like humans don't fully understand humans. Oh, did you catch something strange in that scene? Yep, his reflection doesn't show up. Interesting. Hotsuka also mentions that even Nazuna probably doesn't know why some blood tastes better than others. Speaking of which, there's a rumor that Ko's blood is especially delicious, right? He moves closer to Ko, saying he owes him for helping him hide from the police. Ko protests, but Hotsuka tells him not to worry, he looks like a girl, so it's all good. Yamori asks why Hotsuka dresses like a woman in the first place, and he explains it's because he looks prettier that way. And for some reason, both men and women are drawn to him when he presents like this. In the middle of this, the vampire's phone rings. Nazuna could really be in danger. Ko tries to get up but is pushed back into the armchair. Hotsuka makes an indecent proposal, suggesting Ko turn into a vampire through him instead of Nazuna. He points out that Yamori is 14 years old and hasn't developed any feelings during all this time with Nazuna. As a man himself, Hotsuka says he understands better than a female vampire what a guy needs to fall in love. Ko still doesn't like the idea, but when Hotsuka asks if it's because he's a man, Ko says that's not the problem. Hotsuka's face is pretty and everything. Wow, that actually catches Hotsuka off guard. He blushes and gets flustered. Ko starts a bit of an inner monologue, wondering if maybe he should go through with it just to save Nazuna. He admits that men and women will probably never fully understand each other, but wait, who's to say he'd even fall in love right now, just like that? He asks, and Hotsuka says it's actually quite simple. Unlike other female vampires who seduce their prey, he uses hypnotic powers, basically brainwashing them. That's why his offspring always look so happy. Falling in love is basically a kind of brainwashing anyway, right? Yamori immediately rejects the offer. He says the misunderstandings between him and Nazuna have nothing to do with gender. He's never understood anyone in his life, it's not just a woman thing. He doubts he'll ever understand Nazuna, or Hotsuka, for that matter. And since it's not a gender issue, he adds, even if Hotsuka were a woman, he'd still want to fall in love with Nazuna. With that heartfelt speech, he thanks Hotsuka for the help and leaves. He runs toward the building, determined to make Nazuna's nights a little less boring. When he gets there, Nico tells him he's too late. Nazuna's already gone and probably won't even be able to speak for a while. Heavy consequences were paid to ensure his safety. Ko turns to leave, saying he'll go look for her. Nico tries to stop him, saying Nazuna doesn't want to see him right now. Yamori responds, with more anger than he's ever felt in his life, telling her to shut up. That he's the one who wants to see her, leaving everyone speechless. But, oh no, he forgot about the police. Now he's about to get arrested. He starts talking to Nazuna inside his head, saying that nighttime isn't all fun and games, there are terrifying moments too. But why is that? Even though he's genuinely scared, there's still something kind of fun about it. He manages to escape, and his mental conversation with Nazuna continues. He tells her about all the cool things they've seen together, but wait, who's that? Could she be a super powerful vampire over 500 years old? Guess we'll have to wait to find out. Meanwhile, on the other side of this internal monologue, Nazuna is wondering if Ko is mad at her. But wait, here comes a repeat of the very first scene from episode 1. Ko says he's been looking all over for her. But hold on, isn't she hurt? She says no, but the other vampire said, oh, she's explaining to Hotsuka that violence doesn't work on Nazuna, and she herself hates aggression. It turns out Nazuna's punishment was to confess her feelings for Ko. That's why she was so embarrassed, to the point where she couldn't even speak properly. Nazuna starts walking away, saying it's all over now. Ko tries to tell her that before he met her, he was also always bored. He asks if she didn't enjoy spending these past few nights with him. She says that's obvious. She had so much fun she forgot she'd been bored for ages. That's why, she says, she needs to be brave and tell him that, but he cuts her off. He says it's okay. If they enjoy spending time together, they just need to keep finding more and more fun things to do so they'll never get bored again. He promises to fall in love with her, so she'll stay with him, because he's never going to let her feel bored again. Realizing what he just said, he apologizes and gets all flustered, but mostly because he knows she doesn't know how to handle these kinds of conversations. In the end, Nazuna still can't bring herself to tell him how she feels. But in her mind, she makes a promise to become a vampire worthy of being loved by him. And after the kiss, she says, we're in this together, you and me. And that's how the first season of this anime ends. Luckily, season 2 is already out, so don't forget to subscribe to catch the next episodes. Bye.